Where are we with all the NCAA investigations against Michigan that all suggested that Jim Harbaugh was going to parachute to the NFL and leave Michigan in a lurch to suffer all of his punishments? What's new with all that? We'll tell you right here on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we're used to them doing. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get yourself started there. All right. The Michigan punishments are more coming. Plus, we've got some news. Some quarterback decisions are being made at other schools in the Big Ten. We'll give you the insight there, plus our top 10 observations from the weekend. Look, I want to dive into where we are right now with the NCAA investigations that were supposedly stacking up versus Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. Remember all that? Remember the narrative at the time during Burgergate and Spygate? The narrative was that Harbaugh was he's going to have enough. He's going to put his hands in the air and he's going to go to the NFL, which that did happen. But the school would still be punished for all of that after he left. Some people thought that'd be unfair. So anyway, we'll see what would happen. 2024, 2025, who knows? Now, Harbaugh's gone. That's a fact. So again, where are we right now? Word is that the NCAA is about to release its notice of allegations for the Spygate story within a couple of weeks. Okay, that's interesting. Remember, in the midst of the Michigan Spygate story, there was Special Assistant Connor Stalions, who set up an elaborate sign-stealing spy operation at opposing football stadiums during games, which was a direct violation of NCAA rules. Immediately after the story broke, Jim Harbaugh said that he had no idea what Connor Stalions was doing and that he never told Stalions, or anybody for that matter, to break NCAA rules. And Stalions corroborated with Harbaugh's version of the facts. It turns out, from what we know as of today, that Connor Stalions did indeed go rogue, and he is no longer with the university. Of course, neither is Jim Harbaugh. But some people still want some heads to roll in Ann Arbor. And you remember the uproar in the middle of Spygate last year, in the middle of the season. All the athletic directors, with the exception of Ward Manuel, all jumped on a conference call with Commissioner Tony Petitti and demanded that he penalize Jim Harbaugh, even though it was way too early with the accusations and way too early in the process and way too early to give Harbaugh some due process on this thing. But everybody wanted action right now because they were in panic mode. Nobody could stop Michigan. Nobody could beat him. So they wanted him punished now, before he left or before the NCAA took forever to do its investigation. You know how things go. Then, of course, I think the ADs saw the writing on the wall. And knowing they can't beat Michigan, that's why they wanted a suspension right then and there during 2023 to try and salvage this season, even though there was no evidence directly connecting Harbaugh to Spygate. And of course, the day after, all the coaches got together, except for Jim Harbaugh, on a conference call, and they all demanded something be done. All of them, seemed like, from what we heard. So they tried to play it off as player safety. Well, Michigan knows our players are going to get injured. Michigan State even threatened to cancel the Michigan State game. So we're going to get hurt. We're not going to be out there. But they played and they got beat. But, season started to move back on a little bit. Michigan won that game handily, by the way. Petitti admitted all along that there was not enough evidence against Harbaugh to do anything at that time as far as any punishment. But Petitti caved to pressure and at first reportedly asked Michigan president Santo Ono to do the dirty work for him and suspend Harbaugh. Ono, a big supporter of Harbaugh, pretty much told the commissioner to pound sand on that deal. So Petitti had to step in, and he decided to suspend Harbaugh for the final 3 games of the regular season. Word on the street is that the NCAA report is going to be a report largely about nothing. They don't have anything. Even the accusations against Connor Stallions may be minimal here. Of course, back in late April, or this year, April, the NCAA spoke regarding Burgergate. Remember, we had Spygate and Burgergate last year. And the recruiting violation that Harbaugh and staffers and assistants met with recruits during a non-recruiting period during the pandemic. It was a blackout period. Couldn't talk to anybody. Everyone but Harbaugh reached an agreement with the NCAA on the matter. Michigan agreed to 3 years probation, a fine, and recruiting restrictions. You all know that. The story was out in April. We talked about it here. But that kind of buttons up the Burgergate story, and now we're about ready to button up the Spygate story moving forward. All in all, it was just a slap on the wrist for Burgergate. Perhaps this Connor Stallions Michigan Spygate situation will be a slap on the wrist as well. And no matter what happens, Jim Harbaugh is no longer there. So I'm going to be interested in seeing the reaction of the other Big Ten institutions when the NCAA makes its announcement. After all, almost all of them were like all in on some sort of punishment for Michigan last year. And now it seems like Spygate was yesterday's news. Everybody's kind of moving on. Michigan went on to run the table and win a national championship. Nobody's talking about that anymore. Harbaugh's gone, and all these teams are kind of looking forward now and getting ready for the 2024 football season. It's all over with. It's a done deal. And like I said, I have a sneaky suspicion that whatever the NCAA says about Spygate, it will be very similar to the Burgergate. So who knows? The Burgergate situation may have been more serious. It seems like they had more evidence there that a meeting took place, and they're convinced Harbaugh misled them about it. They seem to have much more evidence that the Harbaugh and the staff met with recruits, and they got the 3 years probation and a few recruiting. They got to step back some recruiting a little bit. That's it. If they have less evidence than that on Connor Stallions in Michigan, is going to be even a smaller penalty than that? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, I don't think it's going to be significant. But there was talk last year while Harbaugh was still at Michigan. Oh, I know he took a 3-game suspension here and a 3-game suspension here, but he's going to have to pay even more, a bigger suspension in 2024. He may miss half the season. Would he have? I don't know. He didn't want to hang around and find out. Wanted to go to the NFL. And we'll find out soon enough how serious all this really was in the first place. Anyway, love to hear your reaction on it. I know I will, either on Twitter or comments on YouTube as well. I also want to take this opportunity to ask you to go ahead and subscribe. And if you like what you see or tell your friends about us, but go ahead and subscribe here and follow Lockdown Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Our audio-only versions. A lot of you listen on your favorite audio podcast app. That's great. And that comes out at 4 a.m. Eastern every day. If you want to watch the video or listen to the audio on the video on YouTube, that comes out at 6 a.m. Eastern every single day. And I want to invite you to check out our website, talkbig1010.com. Get all your favorite shirts, swag, pennants, hats from your favorite teams right there. And all of our podcasts are there as well. And if you missed Friday's podcast, it was our 1-year anniversary show. Go back. We relive some of the memories over the past year. That'll be right there. You can find it on the website as well, talkbig1010.com. In the meantime, Penn State loses another recruit. Penn State's in the mix for a lot of really good players, and they've been losing a few when it comes to recruiting. But we do have some good news for the Hawkeyes and the quarterback situation. And it looks like some quarterback decisions are being made at Wisconsin and Nebraska ahead of the summer practice schedule before the season starts. We'll give you all the details. We'll get you caught up on everything right here on Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. I want to tell you about FanDuel. We all love sports, and we don't ever want them to stop, but the playoffs are winding down, fewer games. We're in that lull. Baseball, football's around the corner, and it's not the same pace as we're used to, but FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime, and I'm in the mood, ready to go. Check this out, okay? And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com/locked-on and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. By the way, I got a parlay for you tonight here, Monday night. Take the Phillies over the Tigers and parlay that with the Dodgers over the White Sox. And then take the under on the A's Angels. Okay. Under on A's and Angels. Head on over to FanDuel.com/locked-on and start making the most of your summer with FanDuel. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe. And of course, that's on YouTube, but also share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten wherever you get it. Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig1010.com. Get your great merchandise there from your favorite school. Great news for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Quarterback Cade McNamara has been fully cleared physically from his season-ending knee injury, and he will be good to go for practice for the start of the season this year. Of course, the Hawkeyes have some depth at quarterback now that maybe they didn't have last year. Brendan Sullivan just transferred over to Iowa from Northwestern. However, Kirk Ferentz says that if McNamara is healthy, McNamara is the starter, and the team will also have first-year offensive coordinator Tim Lester working with both quarterbacks. Speaking of quarterback situations, Luke Fickell did a recent interview on radio, and he talked about his quarterback situation. And he said he kept things wide open going into spring ball between Tyler Van Dyke and who transferred in from Miami, and of course Braden Locke. And he says he'll take the same approach going into the summer, but he expects that Van Dyke will continue to grow into the Badgers system and that Van Dyke should be the guy. That's what they're expecting. I remember when we were talking about them in spring football, and it seemed like Braden Locke was the clubhouse leader there. Van Dyke, who they're very excited about, was having a little trouble, not trouble learning it, but he was behind because Locke had been there. And so Locke was looking pretty good, and Van Dyke was struggling a little bit. Now, my feeling on this situation if you are an everydayer here on Locked On Big Ten. I think Van Dyke is talented. I think he's way too inconsistent. He's going to have great games. He's going to have really bad games. And Locke showed a lot of promise coming in last year, in for an injured Tanner Mordecai. I thought he was pretty good. And when I heard reports that he was actually doing better than Van Dyke at spring football, I wasn't surprised at all. So we'll see how that plays out. That's going to be one of the more interesting quarterback scenarios in the Big Ten. Speaking of quarterback scenarios in the Big Ten, Nebraska has 3 quarterbacks. Now, you wouldn't know that if you listen to the media, and we're guilty as charged here on Locked On Big Ten on this podcast. We talk about 5-star freshman Dylan Raiola all the time. He's very exciting. I can't wait to see him. I know you can't wait to see him play as well. But Matt Rule is quick to point out, hey, I actually have 3 quarterbacks under scholarship here, including Heinrich Haarberg, who played a little bit last year, quite a bit actually, and Daniel Kalen. Rule says, what every good coach says at this time of year, that there will be an open quarterback competition to start the summer, and he'll decide on a starter later on. Don't want to put a timetable on it. Obviously, we'd like to get it done before the season starts. Game plans like that help keep everybody sharp and focused in practice if the job is still technically open. But let's be honest. It's going to be Raiola. It's going to be Raiola. He's going to be the starting quarterback of the Huskers this year. Calling it right now. Been calling it all spring. We'll find out soon enough, though. The Huskers start their practice soon, of course. Regular season opener is August 31st against UTEP, but it's the week 2 game hosting Colorado and Coach Deion Sanders that we can't wait for. That is going to be something special. By the way, over the weekend, did you see Dylan Raiola? He was wearing a nice number 15. That's his number, but it was a baseball jersey, a Nebraska Huskers baseball jersey. He was wearing it while attending the College World Series there in Nebraska over the weekend. Now, some bad news for Penn State going into the weekend. It seems like they've been in the mix for a lot of big name players and recruits. And it seems like they've lost their fair share here over the past week or so to other schools. There was the last week, late four-star running back and Penn State commitment. The running back that's Alvin Henderson was going to go to Penn State as of this past April. He said, "Hey, I'm going to Penn State." Give him the commitment, but he just flipped. He's going to Auburn. Auburn's very excited about it. Now he's from Elba, Alabama. I think that had a lot to do with it. Because after committing to Penn State, then put something out on social media, said, "Man, I'm staying home. I'm staying home. Going to stay in the state of Alabama, go to Auburn." So maybe the thought of leaving the state made him a little bit homesick. He changed his mind. Special kid. If you looked at his stats, he had 225 carries last year in high school, 3,532 yards. 3,500. I mean, this kid rushed for over like 300 yards every game and scored 5 touchdowns. He had a state record in Alabama for 61 touchdowns. 61 in one season of high school. It's incredible. Penn State would have loved him. They love their running backs up there. But he's going to go to Auburn. Hey, anytime we talk about recruiting these days, is a new potential hire trying to find a new hire is like a high-stakes wager for your small business. Is why we always like to give a shout-out to LinkedIn Jobs anytime we talk recruiting. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Daytime TV, it's horrible. It's horrible. You watch a little ESPN or FS1, all those talking heads, screaming head shows, talking sports all day in the daytime. You can make the switch to something better. Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, on the weekends, I always kind of gather my top 10 observations in the Big Ten. Now, there's not a lot of sporting events going on, so I'm just sitting around just kind of pondering a little bit. So I have my top 10 thoughts about the Big Ten from this weekend. Looking forward. Got that coming up next. Hang tight. We'll see what I say about your favorite team or player next on Locked On Big Ten. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to find the car, make your car the MVP, and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, we're going to take a look at our Big Ten top 10 observations for the weekend, except a little twist. Kind of my top 10 thoughts of the Big Ten over the weekend. I'm going to put it on full screen. If you are audio only, and a lot of you listen audio only on your favorite podcast app, we'll describe it in detail here for you, what's going on screen. And I had a thought. It says here Big Ten baseball, number 10. Yeah, I'm watching the College World Series over the past week and then this weekend. And, I know 3 Big Ten teams made it into the NCAA tournament, but, these SEC teams and ACC, we need to do better in baseball. We need to do better in baseball. That's all I'm saying. largely absent as things got more serious and got deep into the postseason this year. All right. I had a thought about Illinois basketball player Terrence Shannon. The NBA draft is coming up this week. And, it's looking like only 3 Big Ten players are going to go in the first round. And that's if Terrence Shannon goes in the first round. Tremendous talent at Illinois. As you know, he was accused of rape last fall. He had his day in court and they found him not guilty. So, whether you look at his NBA stock or not, when he was charged before the trial, stock was falling. It looked like he wouldn't even be drafted. But he's the best Big Ten player available, like ready right now for the NBA. And we'll see how high he goes. He will go. He will get drafted. So better days are ahead for him. And he will go in the first round. Just a question as to where. And so I was thinking about him. I was also thinking about Khalil Ware at Indiana. Got him at number 8. How high does he go? Came over to Indiana for his sophomore season this year. Slow start. Mike Woodson really got him to play with a fire. And, he's a skinny dude. So, he's going to take a little time to develop, but he's got some high upside, as they say. And then not a skinny dude, but a 7'4", 300-pound boulder just in the middle of the paint. Purdue's Zach Edey. The question, how high does he go? Will somebody use a big man? They quit doing that years ago in the NBA. I see a lot of mock drafts that have him go to his hometown of Toronto, or the Raptors maybe. So I was thinking about those 3 guys, Zach Edey, Khalil Ware, and Terrence Shannon here this weekend. And number 6, I was thinking again, quarterback Cade McNamara. They got the green light. He's healthy. He's going to play. He's going to be ready to go coming off this injury. 3 injuries in a little less than 2 years. And I hope things work together for him. He just largely has not been available since he transferred from Michigan to Iowa. Basically missed 2 springs most of last summer and got hurt in week 5 against Michigan State. So let's see how he can do at Iowa as a healthy quarterback. And I wanted to mention number 5, former Iowa star Caitlin Clark. Had an interesting thought. I saw it on a tweet, and I'm going to retweet this probably tomorrow on Tuesday's tweets. But she was asked about all these huge crowds that are coming to see her in the WNBA. And she said, you know what? She recognized that most of the people, even on the road, are coming to see her. So she says it hasn't been that bad playing on the road like it usually can be. Like a lot of the fans want to see her and are cheering for her. She says that's an advantage for her. She says it was starting to be that way with Iowa in her last year in college, with the exception of IU fans. IU fans let her have it. They were definitely the enemy, which is ironic because now a lot of people in Indiana are, they're Indiana Fever fans. But anyway, I thought it was a great comment and a great comment about IU fans. Nebraska, Dilly Rael is number 15. I liked it. I saw him here at the College World Series. I just mentioned that. Got his own Nebraska baseball jersey with the number 15. Look good in it. Look good. Get used to the number 15 out there in Nebraska. Started thinking about Michigan football. We did a podcast on them last week. Kind of wondering, are they going to be sneaky good this year? If they get rolling a quarterback, I think there's more talent there than people realize, even though they lost a lot of talent. Harbaugh's gone, all that. So I was thinking about them. This is what I do on the weekend. I just sit around and ponder all things Big Ten for you guys. I do it for you. At number 2, I was starting to think about Oregon and just how good they can be this year in football in their first year. And wouldn't that be something if they won the Big Ten in their first year in the Big Ten? But then I got to think about Ohio State and how good they are. Maybe they're going to win the Big Ten this year. But I have questions about Will Howard and his accuracy, as you know. So I was thinking about him a little bit. So these are the top 10 things. This is what I just sit around and think about all weekend. What do you think about when you see me thinking about this? Love to hear from you. Hit me up on Twitter at X at Talk Big Ten number 10. You see our website. You can go back and watch some of those podcasts I was talking about from last week. TalkBig10 number 10.com. And by the way, buy some purchase from your favorite school's merch right there. on the website, talkbig10, 10.com, and also comments on YouTube are always welcome as well. Be sure before you go and before you watch another episode of Locked On Big Ten, subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. I told you earlier, the audio versions are out at 4 in the morning, video versions at 6 a.m. every single day. After you watch another episode of Locked On Big Ten, don't forget, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel called Locked On Sports Today. You can check that out. It is on every day. Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, and subscribe with them to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, another week is here. We officially began year number 2 today, as Friday was our 1-year anniversary. So here we go. It's going to go fast and furious. We'll have Big Ten Media Days coming up in about a month. Practice starts right after that. And the season is here. Football. We'll cover every bit of it right here on Locked On Big Ten. Thanks for joining us today. Always enjoy our visits, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Tell a friend about us. It's Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.